Lorie Brown, nurse attorney with Brown Law Office and yournurseattorney.com and Empowered Nurses and you name it. And I am here today with attorney Marc Lopez. And Marc is a criminal attorney. We frequently share cases, unfortunately. It is kind of sad how many nurses get in trouble, and nurses always say, well, I'm a good nurse, I'll never get in trouble. And we want to teach you today, we both have talked about this previously, that's why I do these videos. I want to help you, keep you safe, and if I did myself out of a job that you wouldn't have to go to the licensing board, I am fine with that. And that's what Marc says too. He's like, if none of you ever get arrested, he's fine with that too. There's plenty of other people who are. So let's keep the nurses safe.
That's 100% correct. I like that. Let's keep the nurses safe.
Okay. So anyways, we're going to talk to you pretty much about how the process works, and again, a lot of tips and things to help you protect your license, your livelihood, and of course your freedom, because if you're not free, the rest doesn't matter. So usually people, the whole process starts either when somebody gets fired or somebody gets arrested. You would be surprised what things can happen. So I've had nurses who were fired for giving a coworker an IV of saline because they wouldn't let that nurse go home. And that's, unfortunately, I hear a practice in a lot of hospitals, and as I am not just in Indiana, I work with attorneys all over the country, I hear it from other states as well. And so then they get arrested for stealing saline and a syringe. Other times nurses get arrested or for taking medications from the hospital. If you don't properly sign something out, even if you're not addicted to it, they feel that either you're using the substance or you're selling it. So if you don't sign medications out or have waste properly witnessed and they think you're taking it and terminate it, that could be another area where nurses get arrested. And then of course we have the DUIs. It is the most common type of criminal matter for any healthcare professional that I see. We've seen some really goofy stuff like interference with healthcare, and what are some unusual stuff you've seen?
Just criminal charge for basically bad record keeping, which good luck proving that.
Yeah, but you don't ever want to be in this situation, and our job is to teach you how to prevent these issues.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, so if you're fired, be careful about what you say. If you admit something, it could be used against you, right?
Oh, absolutely. And so the frequent situation we're seeing from the criminal aspect and from your aspect as well is okay, come on into this office real quick. And then when you arrive into the office, there's someone from HR, there's your supervisor, and in some cases, there's even a plainclothes detective. If you see that combination or even two of those three, just assume you're probably going to get fired, no matter what you say. So the best thing to do is not say anything at all.
Don't say anything and see if you can quit. Because if you get fired on every future job application, you're going to have to put that you're terminated. You can't conveniently omit that job. So see if you can resign then. It's better in the long run. But if you can't, as Marc says, don't say anything.
And you even have situations where people are, hey, take a drug test and maybe you can continue working. And obviously, I'm not present at every single time they're doing that, but I have yet to have a client that took a drug test and still kept their job. And so why give them any additional possibility of evidence, even if it's going to be a clean drug test? Don't say anything, don't do anything.
And from the nursing perspective, I like a clean drug test. That will help you before the board. But like I said, if you are suspected for taking medications, you could be using it or selling it. So just be careful. And you do have to take a drug test if you're requested by your employer, if you're still employed. So otherwise you're being insubordinate, and so I like a clean drug test. So if you take a drug test, many nurses think, oh, if I have a legitimate prescription for it, it's not a problem. It is a problem. You might be okay at work. They will understand if you're taking a prescription for something, but the boards don't. And especially, and what I found lately is that nurses will take other people's medication. And that is really dangerous because that is practicing medicine without a license. It's also considered diversion, taking somebody else's medication for your own use. So don't do that either. It's better off to not use any controlled substances. If you have to use controlled substances for a short period of time, like after a surgery or something, don't work. And marijuana is another big issue lately. Are you finding that as well?
I have not seen that, but I mean, it's illegal in Indiana.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even in states where it is legal, your employer can require certain restrictions on that stuff too. So
Yeah, nurses, even though it's legal in certain states, I think it's 11 states that allow it for recreational use and 30 for medical issues. As a nurse, you can't not take it. It stays in your system for a very long time, and even if you were on vacation somewhere where it's legal and you wanted to indulge, I would just recommend staying away. Don't do it. And even CBD oil is dangerous because if it contains THC, you may turn positive for that as well. So if you're going to use CBD oil, make sure it's the pure with no THC in it.
And the CBD oil, I've talked with the Indiana State toxicologists, and there are so many different ways that could just go and hurt you. And Indiana, the laws are not prepared for CBD oil, for the way we do our drunk driving, for the way we define impairment. You know, Indiana defines impairment with even the metabolites. So something smoked 30 days ago, perhaps on a vacation in Colorado, you get an accident and it's still in your blood, not active, not high. That's still a DUI in Indiana. And now we have this legal CBD oil, which, if you type into Google, there's 4,000 different ways you can turn that into THC, but also it can be metabolized in a certain way. And if you use CBD oil for over a very long period of time, it will show up as THC and or the THC metabolite in your blood. That's going to be a huge area of contention going forward.
Yeah. So as a nurse or a healthcare provider, just stay away. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it. So after you're fired, or usually there is an investigation. So if the DEA, and sometimes you might not even be fired, but the DEA comes knocking at your door. This has happened to several nurse practitioners that I've received calls from. DEA knocks on your door, starts talking to you, and says, well, I think it's best if you don't want to go to jail to surrender your DEA license. And you can get it back, but, just sign this paper here. Don't. Trying to get it back can be a nightmare. So why give up something that you work so hard to get? Don't talk to them. If anybody comes to your door or wants to talk to you, I don't care if it's an investigator from the Attorney General's office or an investigator from the board or an investigator from the police department or a detective's office, the DEA, whatever. Any authority that comes and wants to talk to you, don't talk. Don't waive your Fifth Amendment right. Don't create the problem for yourself. So many nurses, we are so kind, we're so giving, we want to just tell everything, and that will come back to hurt you. So
And the people that are coming to talk to you, then coming to your door, inviting you to their office, they've been trained that you get more flies with honey than vinegar. These people pretend to put forth a caring attitude. We just want to know what really happened. We want to make sure you're okay. We want to make sure that you're doing what you need to do. So they come across as very nice. They come across as very empathetic. They come across as genuinely people, but that's their training. And don't fall for that. And it's my experience, just what Lorie said, most nurses are very giving people and caring people, and they're looking forward to explaining themselves. And unfortunately, you can't talk yourself out of this train. And once it leaves the station, you can only do two things. You can make it harder for them, or you can help them. And both of us hope you make it much more harder for them, because that'll help you in the long run.
Yeah. And I know you feel like if you just tell them the truth, that they're not going to do anything. That's not true. You're just making their case for them against you. So you don't need to explain. Get an attorney, have a criminal law attorney who can be the bad guy for you.
Absolutely. And that's one of the beautiful things about having an attorney. Why won't she meet with me, Mr. Lopez? Because I won't let her. She wants to. She's dying to meet with you. But I've told her she's not going to. And that way, it makes you look like a better person by having me going out there. And I will never let my clients talk to the police, talk to the investigator. And if my client said I insist, they wouldn't be my client because there's no benefit to the person cooperating with the police and just giving them more information. That's not the time or the place. Now, when the prosecutor comes and they're willing to make deals or other places like that, those are the individuals that can be negotiated with. But law enforcement officers, investigators, they have no authority. That's Indiana law. That's other states' law too. Only the prosecutor can make any kind of promises that are enforceable.
Now, that's not to say, talking to the investigator from the board, I always have my clients talk to the investigator, but I prepare them. And I tell them exactly, we talk about what their story is and help phrase it in the light most favorable to the person. Because you want to show your mitigating factors. You want to show the reasons why they shouldn't take action, why you didn't violate the Nurse Practice Act. But get some help with that, because as an attorney, we're able to. So as an attorney, we know how to adequately prep you so that you can say things in the light most favorable to you. And there's certain things we might not want you to say, because we want to protect your Fifth Amendment right too, from a licensing defense standpoint. So there's certain things that I don't want you to say, or to tell the attorney that the investigator you're not going to answer, so I can protect you from having to go hire Mark.
And it's just, I don't want anyone listening to this or watching this thinking that we're trying to help people get away with anything, but
No.
these individuals are trained to ask questions in a way that they're open-ended questions. They're trying to elicit responses from you. And if they say in the course of an official investigation, you give an answer that is incorrect, that can be used against you and it be used to attack your credibility. Did you work on Tuesday morning? No, I didn't work on Tuesday morning. Oh, you did actually. It's right here. Now you're a liar. There's just so many issues. Never meet with them by themselves. If you're meeting with the board, have Lorie with you. If anyone's knocking your door to meet with you, make sure you reach out to one of us, because you're not going to be able to take care of that on your own.
And I love what you said. You said that we're not trying to hide the truth at all, because we are the first to tell you that there is a time to admit and take responsibility and fall on your sword. Because people make mistakes, but it's what you learn from the mistakes that makes the difference. So, no, we want you to be honest, but there's a way to be honest in, again, the light most favorable to you. And you can take responsibility, we want you to, but in the light most favorable to you. And we don't want you to take responsibility without us, though, because then that's an admission against your interest.
And it's an excellent point. Without us, why can't I just admit I did something wrong and then just take my punishments and move on with my life? Well, the reality is, prosecutors in Indiana, there's 92 counties, and each prosecutor is an elected position, and they have a vested interest in being tough on crime. And so you hear people all the time, I'm just going to admit I did wrong. Well, they get the hammer thrown at them because they've done nothing to give the prosecutor any type of negotiating edge. There's no reason to give them leniency because they admit everything up front, and then they come, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to lose my license for this long.
Yeah.
You should have met with us much earlier so we can help guide this process, as opposed, so you can be a participant in the process as opposed to being a victim of the process.
And us or whoever you choose. I mean, we're just here to give you the information, and if you choose to work with us, I hope you're not in a position to, because we're hoping this video will prevent that. So anyways, after the investigation, the court or the board or the prosecutor's office will decide whether charges should be filed against you. So if criminal charges are filed against you, if you can't afford an attorney, you have the right to have an attorney appointed for you.
Yep.
But in nursing, before the nursing board, you don't get that right. That's only in criminal law. So once charges are filed, it becomes public record in both areas, right?
Absolutely.
And we don't want you to have charges that are public record, because it's most employers, if you have a criminal matter pending, they won't let you continue to work there, even if it's something innocent that you can't, that's easily defendable. They don't want you to work there because they don't want somebody with charges pending. So we'd rather prevent that problem than to have it. And same with the nursing board. Once charges are filed, it's public record, and it's public record forever. So, and even if they get the charges wrong, it's still public record. then the next part of the process is the pretrial process. So
Yeah, so we're talking about the criminal aspect, and the pretrial process is between the initial hearing and the trial or some sort of resolution of the case. And that process it can be very short. In some courts in Marion County, 90 days. Other parts of the state or even Marion County, it can be much longer, and it will depend if it's a felony or misdemeanor. But during the pretrial process, that's when state of Indiana has to provide the evidence they intend to use against you. In some circumstances, the defense has to provide some discovery as well, but that's to kind of get the full picture of the evidence, and they have to give you everything that they're going to try to use to convict you. And so that's a very eye-opening part, and that's kind of usually where I end up getting involved after charges are filed in the pretrial, and then I get to be the Monday morning quarterback, like, oh, why'd you do that? Why'd you meet with that person? What? And so I'm seeing this stuff, and so, when Lorie asked me to come talk with this, one of my things was, let's talk about how we can avoid getting to my part, and all this stuff, we're trying to educate you. I don't want anyone to have to be my client.
Yeah.
I want everyone to hire me if they need me, but I don't want anyone to have to be in the situation because there's shame involved. It's humiliating. For the most, if you're a nurse, this is your livelihood. This is how you make your living, support your family, and I recognize that this is. You're not going to die of most charges. You're not going to go to jail the rest of your life, but this is life or death.
Yeah.
And we recognize that, both of us do.
And you're probably a good nurse or you wouldn't be listening to this.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, through a series of unfortunate events, you find yourself in this situation. And one of the things that Mark mentioned previously is how the prosecutors are elected. And so there are certain counties where the prosecutor runs on the platform of, we are going to eliminate drugs in our county. And so if you have a drug conviction, as much as they'd like to dismiss it or give you a deferral, even though they'd like to do it, they can't because they feel like a hypocrite. Hey, I ran on this platform, but I can't let your client go because of that.
A lot of prosecutors everyone's big thing right now is opiate addiction, opiate crisis, and it's just they're running on these drug platforms, just like Lorie said, and it makes it very difficult to negotiate with some of these drug type offenses because they ran on that, and you're absolutely right about that. You feel like they're back into a wall a little bit.
Yeah, and as much as they'd like to, because police are really good to nurses typically, because they never know, if they're going to need you as well, and just like you never know if you're going to need the police. So, we're both helping professions, and they do want to help the nurses. But again, if you did wrong, it's not really the police's choice then, it's the prosecutors.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And police don't press charges, the prosecutor that files charges. Officers always recommend what they think, but it's ultimately a prosecutor that signs the probable cause and a judge that reviews that. And just one thing too, I get a lot of individuals who say, Mark, this is a misunderstanding. And these charges, once we get to court, the judge is going to realize this is a big mistake. I just want to just educate anybody watching this. If you have charges filed against you, a judge has signed off on those. So that's not saying it's true. That's just saying there's probable cause to arrest you. But a prosecutor doesn't just, he files a charge, but a judge reviews the probable cause. And he says, oh, I do agree that there's probable cause for these charges that the prosecutor's recommended. So I think some people, as a way to perhaps even avoid the reality of the situation, this is so ridiculous, this is obviously a mistake. Well, just on paper at least, a prosecutor who, lawyers know better than anybody else, but at the very minimum, 4 years of college, 3 years of law school, has reviewed that, filed charges, and then a judge, same education, but also the ability to get elected in his county, has signed off on this. And I'm not saying that judges or prosecutors are infallible, but you have to understand that educated individuals have looked at this and decided that these are appropriate charges. They may not be true, but hey, it's in the ballpark. And so once charges are filed, it is very serious. And a wait and see attitude is not the correct way to go.
And same with the nursing board. When charges are filed against you, the board has approved to proceed with the charges against that individual. So, and when you go to a pretrial conference, they say, the first thing they'll say is, assuming the charges are true, this is what I would recommend to resolve the matter. So, let's talk about your pretrial process in the
Absolutely.
criminal matter. So what happens at the pretrial process?
So the very, very first court hearing would be the initial hearing, and that's where basically they read the charges out loud to you. I know that sounds kind of silly. Why do they read the charges out loud to you? They didn't always do that. And we're talking back in the King of England days. They wouldn't tell you what you're charged with. You would walk in and they say, are you innocent or are you guilty? People would be like, what am I charged with? And the king would say, that's not what I asked you. Answer my question. And if you answered wrong, he took your lands or forfeited your life. So initial hearing is important because the judge will look you in the eye and he'll read your charges. Practical purposes though, misdemeanors, 99.9% of judges in this state, some giant exceptions, expect attorneys to waive initial hearings, because if a judge has to sit there and read charges all day, it's monotonous, it's boring, and you're allowed to waive misdemeanors. Now felonies, you have to go to initial hearings. 99% of the attorneys will waive the formal reading, so you don't have to actually read the charges out loud, just to speed things up a little bit. But that's the first court hearing, and then in between the initial hearing and the trial date or guilty plea date, there could be any number of pretrial conferences. It's just basically meetings with the judge. Hey, what's going on? Are we going to do a trial on this? Are we going to get this resolved? And those are times kind of for the attorneys, the prosecutor and your attorney to kind of get to know each other, kind of feel out each other, and also your attorney to kind of show the prosecutor you're not a bad person. Because, hey, even though those charges are being filed, they're still doing some positive things or being proactive.
Mm-hmm. So most of the time, you guys deny the charges automatically.
Oh, yeah.
Right? No matter what. They always deny it.
Yes.
Yes. And then what happens is, after that, is we try and reach a settlement, right? Or you...
Yeah, we try to reach a favorable agreement. And there's
Yes.
lots of different ways that criminal trials can go. You can do a jury trial. You could do a plea agreement. And Indiana does have the ability in some charges to do some sort of deferral, deferment, diversion. Kind of all the last three things are all kind of the same, but basically, I agree the judge was correct in filing probable cause against me, but we're going to pause this entire proceedings. You do a few things. Now, I'm trivializing it. Usually it's some pretty hard things, but do X, Y, and Z, and then if you do that successfully within a period of time, we'll dismiss the charges against you.
Mm-hmm.
That is always the goal. I mean,
Yeah.
that's ideally
Right.
what you would like, and
But that doesn't help you with nursing. It does and it doesn't. I'll explain it in a minute.
I'm dying to understand that better too, and because like I was saying, the diversion is like the slam dunk for a defense attorney, because
Yeah.
you can't go back in time and eliminate someone determining there's probable cause. So it baffles me that this still could be a problem for the nurses, and I would love to have more information about that.
Yeah. We had a client recently who had an amazing outcome in a criminal matter, and she just had to pay restitution, but the board's throwing the book at her. You know, they want to tar and feather her, which is really sad. So what the board does is, well, first of all, when you have a matter, the minute if you are convicted of a crime, and conviction doesn't just mean pled guilty. It means if you are on the diversion thing. The Office of the Inspector General is from the federal government, and their job is to prevent Medicare and Medicaid fraud. So if you were accused of diversion in the diverting drugs, not diversion in the, divert your criminal charges kind of thing, there's a list that the Office of the Inspector General keeps called the Exclusion List. And we'll put the link on the video here so you can see if you're on the list. I would hope not. But anyways, if you're on that list, it means that you can't take care of Medicare or Medicaid patients for the next 5 years. Now there's two types of exclusion. The first is permissive and the second is mandatory. So there are certain things which are permissive, and which means if they want to put you on the list, they can, but at least you have an opportunity to object and to get off the list. But there's certain things that are mandatory. So, for example, if you have felony charges and go on diversion, that's considered a conviction. So Mark will always have to, or whoever needs to get those charges reduced. And what happens is if you don't have a criminal lawyer who is familiar with this Office of the Inspector General, they will come out of the courthouse singing, saying, I get my client on diversion, just like how Mark was so excited with it. However, they have to have something to hold over your head to make sure it doesn't happen again. So typically you do plead guilty to the crime, right? And then if you don't have a problem in a year, it goes away. Well, unfortunately, diversion and pleading guilty to a felony, even if it goes away, is one of those mandatory things that get you on the list. So you, like I said, this attorney comes out of the courthouse singing, I did such a great job for my client, they're on diversion, and surprise, a couple of weeks later, they get a letter, you're on the OIG exclusion list, and it's mandatory. So if you're on this OIG exclusion list and it's mandatory, not only will you not be able to take care of Medicare or Medicaid patients for the next 5 years, you can't even work in a facility that takes Medicare or Medicaid. You can't work as a clerk or a monitor tech or anything that doesn't require a license.
Realistically, where can you work?
Any place but healthcare, basically. So you don't want to be on that list. And that can happen after pleading guilty to a criminal matter. It can also happen if your license is suspended or revoked from the nursing board, or if there's any concern about Medicare and Medicaid fraud, they can report you as well. So you just want to stay off that list.
It's just like so. Yeah, it just charges. It's the way of keep on giving beyond the criminal. Just
yeah. There's a whole lot more. We're going to go through other ramifications of pleading guilty to a criminal matter. Aside from the OIG, I did want to mention that if you are suspended, that you can ask to, as soon as your license is reinstated, you can ask to get off the list. If the only reason you were on that list is because your license was suspended. So that's the good news on that one. So if you're on you just want to stay away from that OIG list. And again, if you're suspended, then you will get on that list, but you can get off of it as soon as your license is reinstated. Now, I always say, and as Mark puts it so eloquently, that criminal charges are the gift that keeps on giving for healthcare professionals. So not only is there a risk of getting on the Office of the Inspector General list, but there's also, when you renew your license, especially in Indiana, you have to say whether you've been arrested, convicted, pled no contest to any criminal matter. And also in Indiana, you have 90 days to provide notice of a conviction to the board. Once you provide notice of the conviction to the board that you've had a criminal matter, what's been happening lately is that the board doesn't know what to do with these things, so they send them to the Attorney General's office for investigation. So you'll also have a consumer complaint with the Attorney General's office. Again, what we can do to help you is, one, we can do the 90-day notice of conviction for you, and two, we can respond to the Attorney General's office consumer complaint. Once you get the consumer complaint and you respond, then they're going to decide whether they want to file charges against you or close your file. File charges against your license, so you can have an additional problem. Or close your file. Now, if you do have action against your license, you will be reported to the National Practitioner Data Bank. And what the National Practitioner Data Bank was primarily for, this is kind of crazy. If, say you're a doctor in Texas and you had like 6 malpractice claims and you wanted to go to another state because you can't get credentialed by a hospital, so you'd go over to Oklahoma. Well, it used to be, how would anybody know if those medical malpractice claims, if you had medical malpractice claims in another state? There would be no way to know. So what they formed is the National Practitioner Data Bank. So doctors can't leave one state, go to the next, and get credentialed and not tell everything. So it's not as big of a deal for nurses, but it is for all health care providers. So if anybody has an action, you will get reported to the data bank, and then you get to write your response to it. Now, you were saying something a minute ago about how sometimes the consumer complaints come before you're involved.
Yeah, so I've had a few cases over the years where people have called me saying, hey, I got fired from my nursing job, and they were kind of just waiting for criminal charges. And in one particular case, one of the nurses called me up and said, well, I got this consumer complaint information and I'm filling it out and I'm about to send it. And I was like, whoa. No. So even though it's consumer complaint, even though if the criminal charges haven't been finalized, anything you say, you write down, you comment on or anything like that can be used against you. So even though in the example that we're talking about, the consumer complaint came after the criminal charges, if it comes before then, you still do not want to answer that without talking to an attorney who can make sure you don't do anything to jeopardize your job or your freedom.
And if you move to another state and think, well, okay, I had an action in Indiana, but I still have an Illinois license, I'll go work there. Well, what happens is I call it the domino effect. Any place that you have a license elsewhere, you're going to have an action there too. So I really feel bad for those nurses who like do telemedicine or something that have licensed in all the states, because again, if you're licensed in one and you have a problem in one, it's going to affect all your other licenses. And there is a website called Nurses, NURSYS.com, that you can check any nurse out and see if they've ever had a license issue anywhere. And all the documents are uploaded. Again, no complete transparency for everybody to see. So what bothers me is if you have a criminal matter, and then in Indiana at least, you can get those things expunged in a certain number of years. But yet, if they bring an action based on that criminal matter, and even if it's expunged later, you can't get the nursing board stuff expunged.
Oh my gosh, so that's insane, because the Indiana expungement law is fantastic, because once your criminal matter has been expunged, you can put on a licensing application or employment application, never been arrested. What's the benefit of that if they can simply find out all the details through the...
Right. And again, it's not just on the Indiana Professional Licensing Agency statute, it's on nurses for anywhere, it's anyone to find. So even if you want to move to a different state and put this behind you, you're going to still have to answer to get another license that you've had a matter in another state.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. I'd like to get that changed. I really would. I don't think it's fair to nurses who have done everything they're supposed to do, that have taken giant leaps and moved their life forward, to still have this on their record. But right now, that's the way it is.
Well, it's good to know too, because we get calls from nurses all the time wanting to do expungements, and I want to make sure I don't tell them that this is foolproof, although it's not foolproof, but that's even...
Yeah, if they have a nursing board matter, it's not foolproof.
Kind of leading into probation, if we're not able to get the charge dismissed, or if the prosecutor is requiring some sort of probation because there's a conviction or a diversion, my experience has been that if we are very proactive and have the nurse involved in treatment, it was through ISNAP, but if they're doing ISNAP, in the past, I've gotten judges and prosecutors to agree, hey, we're going to take a hands-off approach for probation and monitoring so long as the nurse is compliant with ISNAP. And that's one of the big things that I just found out earlier this month. ISNAP is no longer providing services in the state of Indiana. It's been replaced.
Yeah, with
and so
IPRP.
I would love to know some more information about that too. And I know for a fact some judges have been asking me for information. So I'd love to be able to send them this part of the video.
Oh, okay. So ISNAP has been every year when state contracts come up for renewal, they get, or every so often, I don't know if it's every year, the board has the opportunity to decide whether they want to renew the contract or hire another provider. ISNAP had been serving Indiana for 13 years, but there have been several other providers in the past. And this year, that the IPRP has gotten the contract. And the IPRP will grandfather in all the ISNAP recovery monitoring agreements, unless you don't do what you're supposed to. And then if they're going to need to extend or modify your agreement at all, it'll be under their agreements at that time. But I really believe IPRP will do a good job. They're really committed to monitoring the nurses and ensuring that the nurses are safe to practice. And if you do have a problem, get the help that you need and protect yourself and protect your license. Get the help you need voluntarily rather than having to be forced to do it.
And just, I always follow up with my clients, and it seems a lot of them had very positive experiences with ISNAP, and so I'm hoping going forward they have the same experience with IPRP, right?
IPRP, yeah.
And it's not easy. It wasn't
isn't.
easy under ISNAP, and I've been told that IPRP is going to be stringent too, and
Yeah.
we know that that's serious. And
It is, but on the other side of this, every nurse I've talked to has successfully completed recovery, is very grateful because what's on the other side is so much better for them. They just, they learn so much about themselves through the process that makes them a better person.
it's a beautiful way of saying that. I like that. So much better on the other side.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, it's been a pleasure talking to you today and talking to Mark. Thank you for being our
Thank
guest.
you for inviting me. I love coming here, and
Yeah.
everybody here is so wonderful. And you can't see everybody on the camera, but there's a lot of people that make this happen, and
Yeah.
it's very nice. Thank you for having me.
I have an amazing team. They're awesome. We are truly dedicated to caring for nurses. We practice law like nursing, and we take care of our nurses. And we only will refer nurses to who we feel practice law like we do, with compassion and really care for the nurses. And that's why we use Mark for our criminal matters.
Got blushing over here. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So until next time, happy nursing. I do hope, I know we gave you a ton of information in this video, but I do hope you take it to heart, and I hope you never have to talk to us or use this information. But if you do, remember, don't talk to anybody. Just reach out. We'll get on the phone with you. We'll help you at no charge, and then if you decide to work further with us, awesome. But we really do care about the nurses and don't ever want you to be in this situation. So
It's right along with what Lorie says. Nurses, in my experience, they get in charge, they're a little bit nervous, and there's a little bit of, I'm ashamed this happened. And so it's easy to try to avoid things. But I want to promise anybody watching this video, you call either one of us, you're not going to be something, oh, we never heard this before, I can't believe that. People make mistakes, people do things that, they weren't planning on doing. Things happen, and you have to make a decision very early on. Are you going to let this define you for the rest of your life, or are you going to try your best to define it? And we both hope it's a second one, and you be proactive. And
yeah, I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning thinking that they want to take drugs, but somehow addiction gets a hold on you. Or like the previous example with the IV therapy, where the person got criminal charges for taking, for using an IV bag. Here's the thing, when you want to help somebody, just think it through all the way. As nurses, we are so kind and giving, or we'll say to our friend that's hurting, oh, I have a Norco from a dental procedure I had. This will help your back. Why don't you take one? And you don't realize that that's practicing medicine without a license, and that is a criminal matter as well. So as much as you want to help, just think through it first before you do anything, and trust your gut and ask yourself, is this really the right thing to do? So until next time, happy nursing, and I hope you learned a lot from us. I would love to hear your comments below. Take care.
Have a great
Bye.
day.